Today is Thursday, June 17th, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Juneteenth is now a national federal holiday after President Joe Biden signed it into law. We will break it all down right here on the show. It's the 50th anniversary of the war on drugs. We'll show you what Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush said on the House floor about the effects those drug policies have had on the country. Stacey Abrams says she supports West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin's For the People Act compromise proposal. Well, it's not a full proposal yet, but then she later modified that and added some things to it. We'll show you her explanation. Plus, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law banning the teaching of critical race theory in Texas public school system, even though it's not taught. It shows you how stupid these folks are. Is Hollywood doing a good job of portraying the LGBT community? We'll talk with black, of course, same-sex loving activists for that conversation. Plus, we'll introduce you to a couple of moms who are leading the fight to protect black boys. It is time to bring the funk. Of course, don't forget, we also have our Essence Fest throwback. Y'all don't want to miss that. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Juneteenth is now a federal national holiday. President Joe Biden today signed the measure at a packed room at the White House. It was something that many people have been waiting for a very long time. Folks like me, native Texan. Texas, of course, made it a national holiday in 1980. There he signed the bill, surrounded by people, including Opal Lee, that sister who, of course, who's been fighting for it, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston. She got the first pin. What's going on with the video, folks? Folks, so we're going to get that straight, folks. But again, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Senator Pastor Raphael Warnock, Congressman Jim Clyburn, and as well as Vice President Kamala Harris and others surrounding President Joe Biden in today's bill signing ceremony. This is what the president had to say before he signed the bill into law.
Juneteenth has been known by many names: Jubilee Day, Freedom Day, Liberation Day, Emancipation Day, and today, a national holiday. And looking out across this room, I see the advocates, the activists, the leaders who have been calling for this day for so long, including the one and only Miss Opal Lee. When we establish a national holiday, it makes an important statement. National holidays are something important. These are days when we as a nation have decided to stop and take stock, and often to acknowledge our history. And so as we establish Juneteenth as our newest national holiday, let us be clear about what happened on June 19th, 1865, the day we call Juneteenth. Because you see, that day was not the end of slavery in America. Yes, on that day, the enslaved people of Galveston, Texas, learned that they were free. But in fact, 2.5 years earlier, the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery in the Confederacy. So think about that. For more than 2 years, the enslaved people of Texas were kept in servitude. For more than 2 years, they were intentionally kept from their freedom. For more than 2 years. And then on that summer day, 156 years ago, the enslaved people of Texas learned the news. They learned that they were free, and they claimed their freedom.
Juneteenth marks both the long, hard night of slavery and subjugation and a promise of a brighter morning to come. This is a day of profound, in my view, profound weight and profound power. A day in which we remember the moral stain, the terrible toll that slavery took on the country and continues to take. What I've long called America's original sin. At the same time, I also remember the extraordinary capacity to heal and to hope and to emerge from those painful moments in a bitter, bitter version of ourselves, but to make a better version of ourselves. And today we consecrate Juneteenth for what it ought to be, what it must be, a national holiday. As the Vice President noted, a holiday that will join the others of our national celebrations, our independence, our laborers who built this nation, our servicemen and women who served and died in its defense, and the first new national holiday since the creation of Martin Luther King holiday nearly 4 decades ago. I'm grateful to the members of Congress here today, in particular the Congressional Black Caucus, who did so much to make this day possible.
Speaking of the Congressional Black Caucus, they, of course, also spoke on this issue today and also joined with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others in singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. So that was interesting. Sidebar, and this is a message to the staff of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, including her director of media, Stephanie Cherry, a black woman, and her deputy chief of staff, Drew Hamill. We at Roland Martin Unfiltered, we have been asking since July 28th, 2020, for an interview with Speaker Nancy Pelosi. July 28, 2020. Every time we ask, all we hear is she's unavailable. Here's the deal. If Speaker Nancy Pelosi is going to wear a kente cloth and take a knee for George Floyd, and if she's going to sit there and sing Lift Every Voice and Sing with the Congressional Black Caucus, well then maybe Stephanie and Drew, y'all need to find some time for her to actually talk with black-owned media. Because frankly, I'm sick and tired of seeing Speaker Nancy Pelosi show up on CNN, show up on MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, and not do any black-owned media. So if you're gonna sing Lift Every Voice and Sing on Juneteenth, then you might wanna actually find time for the Speaker of the House. The House represents the people of America to do black-owned media. And yeah, we shouldn't be waiting almost a year for her to come on this show with Senator Chuck Schumer, her counterpart in the Senate has been on 5 times. Every major Democratic presidential candidate came on this show, including Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker and Senator Amy Klobuchar and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Including your whip, Congressman Jim Clyburn. The head of the Democratic caucus, Hakeem Jeffries, as well. Head of the CBC, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, as well. So all I'm saying to Nancy Pelosi's staff, stop screwing over black-owned media and have her come talk to us as well. And don't play us small. So if you're going to sing black songs and wear kente cloth, come talk to black people. It ain't that hard. Not black targeted, black owned. That's all I'm saying. Folks, there's a lot of things that we're going to be unpacking here when it comes to Juneteenth. And later we're going to be actually joined by Dr. Greg Carr, our panelist. He was actually at the White House today, and also Opal Lee, who was right there with President Biden when he signed it. Now, there were 14 Republicans. It was a 415-14 vote. We covered it live yesterday right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. There were 14 Republicans who did not vote for Juneteenth. Let's give you their names. Representative Mo Brooks of Alabama, one of the most clueless idiots in Congress. Representative Mike Rogers of Alabama, no shock, Alabama. 2 bigots from Arizona, Representative Andy Biggs and Representative Paul Gosar. Representative Tom McClintock from California, Representative Ralph Norman from California, Doug LaMalfa from California. One of the absolute idiots, the dude who was scared like a little punk on January 6th, but then he defended the actions on January 6th and then wouldn't even shake the hand of one of the D.C. police officers who saved his ass on January 6th. Yeah, that joke of a congressman from Georgia, Andrew Clyde. This idiot Thomas Massey from Kentucky. Representative Matt Rosendale from Montana. Remember, he was the one who even Texas Senator John Cornyn called kooky with his response. Representative Scott DeJarlis from Tennessee. Then you have the fool who was Donald Trump's, remember he was the White House doctor, Ronnie Jackson from Texas, yeah, that idiot, Chip Roy from Texas, and Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin. Those are the 14 Republicans who would not vote for Juneteenth as a national holiday. And frankly, I hope they are pillared, just like every Republican who did not vote for Dr. King's birthday being a national holiday. Remember, Senator John McCain caught a lot of hell for a long time, never living that down, his refusal to support King's birthday as a national holiday. But here's one of those idiots, Congressman Andy Biggs. This is his explanation for why he didn't vote for Juneteenth to be a national holiday.
Hi, Andy Biggs here from Arizona's 5th Congressional District. We're about to go vote on a bill that makes Juneteenth a federal national holiday. The Democrats have labeled it Juneteenth National Independence Day. And what it is really is it's Emancipation Day. They could have made this a really harmonious, celebratory bill, because I think everybody would have passed this thing out unanimously if they would have taken it through committee and they would have changed the name to Juneteenth National Emancipation Day, because that's what it celebrates, the emancipation of the slaves. But they've weaponized this bill like they weaponize everything else. They want to divide, and that's just a shame, because I support the celebration of Juneteenth. I think that is critical. It's an important part of our nation's history. And if they would have named this correctly, and if they would have included Republicans, if they would have said, let's join together to celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation and the starting of the end of this dark time in our history, I think they would have had this great opportunity to unify Congress and maybe send a signal to America that we can unify in a time of stark divisions. But instead, they weaponized the bill, and I'll be voting no.
I know none of y'all believe that bullshit you just heard right there. I know y'all didn't believe any of that. I know I didn't. Here is Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey discussing Juneteenth.
Juneteenth is the holiday that fills that gap in our history. that recognizes the wrong that was done, that acknowledges the pain and the suffering of generations of slaves and their descendants, and that finally celebrates their freedom. Juneteenth is a reminder that none of us are free unless we are all free. The Juneteenth National Independence Day Act does not right the wrongs of our nation's past, but it finally gives recognition and voice to those who suffered. It finally makes this day of celebration and liberation recorded history. And our work continues. There is still more work to be done to ensure justice for all, to rid of the inequities that continue to plague our nation, and to make black liberation a reality for every American.
Now, you can always count on white nationalist Tucker Carlson to weigh in on this, speaking for the white nationalists in America. And this was the foolishness, I'm going to play in a second, that was stated last night on his show. But y'all need to understand, again, who he's speaking to. Listen to this.
Thinks about is radical social change. And this week, she got an assist from the United States Congress. Starting this Saturday, our country is getting a new Independence Day to supplant the old one, which people like Lori Lightfoot complained was racist. Not a single member of either party in the Senate opposed it. Republicans, in fact, co-sponsored the resolution. Happy that my bill to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday just passed the Senate, wrote John Cornyn, a supposedly conservative senator from Texas. Lori Lightfoot is thrilled by this. Unlike John Cornyn, Lori Lightfoot understands the power of symbols. They're immensely important. That's why we have them. For Flag Day on Monday, a holiday designed to honor the American flag, speaking of symbols, Lori Lightfoot is flying something instead called the Pan-African flag. You're seeing a shot of it on your screen right now. It's now up in City Hall in Chicago. That and the Juneteenth flag. Watch. What she thinks about is radical social change. And this week, she got an assist from the United States Congress.
Oh, poor Tucker. Really? Are your feelings hurt? Are you a little upset that the truth is now being told? See, when you hear the white nationalists proclaim that on this day, this was to declare, is to replace. No, it wasn't to replace. What it was, Tucker, was to actually speak truth. I know it's a little hard for you to understand. But what you have to understand is that what we're dealing with is people of African descent did not celebrate Independence Day on July 4th, 1776, because we were not free. We were not free from Great Britain. In fact, little Tucker, people of African descent who were enslaved fought with the British because they were promised their freedom by doing so. See, this is why the white nationalists hate the 1619 Project. This is why white nationalist TV Fox News employs a Tucker Carlson. This is why they hate what happened today. Because see, now all of their efforts and all of their fighting to keep their white children from being taught actual American history, it's going to be a little hard now to do that, with Juneteenth now being a national holiday. I know there are a lot of people out there who have been, we didn't want this, we want, but let me be real clear. I want the George Floyd Justice Act. I want to end voter suppression. I want all of those things, but I wanted this too. Because see, now there's no escaping Juneteenth in the reality. Now, you heard Vice President Kamala Harris there speak. I wish her staff had actually listened to Karl Mack when he talked about the history as well. because the slaves actually were not necessarily freed in the Confederacy with Emancipation Proclamation. So we quibble over some of those details. But really what they are struggling with now, they're struggling with the fact that they now have to confront what really happened. They have to confront all of the specific things that took place, the heinous nature of slavery. They have to confront that it actually happened here in the United States. See, I find it very interesting that you have these folks who are passing these bills. We don't want critical race theory being taught, when first of all, it's not even being taught in your schools. But then you have states that are actually passing that it must be mandated to teach the Holocaust in schools. I have no problem with the teaching of the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust, in schools. Some of you may say, well, Roland, why did you just switch from the Holocaust to the Jewish Holocaust? Because the Jewish Holocaust took place in Germany. That was the Jewish Holocaust. There was a Holocaust that took place in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium. It was estimated that 10 to 20 million black Congolese were killed. Yeah, read the book King Leopold's Ghost. I call it the Jewish Holocaust because of the number of people of African descent who died crossing that Atlantic, who died at the hands of the Portuguese, at the hands of the British, at the hands of Americans. See, y'all, that's really why the white nationalists are now upset. They are upset. See, if I'm about to preach this thing, they are upset, which is what the basis of my book, White Fear. They are upset because we now are exercising our power. You see, the white nationalists who were behind slavery for 243 years, it was never their design for a Roland Martin to be able to speak freely on a platform that I own. That's why it was made illegal for us to be able to even read. What the people of African descent who were enslaved understood was that there must be something powerful about the concept of reading if the sentence, if you were caught, was death. And so what the white nationalists today can't handle is they can't handle Becky and Margaret and Chip and Tucker and Sean and Laura and Mark. They can't handle Dan. They can't handle any of them now having to be exposed to the truth about our history. Let's break this thing down. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Amisha Cross, Democratic Strategist, Reese Colbert, Black Women Views. Greg, I want to start with you. One, you were at the White House today at the bill signing ceremony. I got lots of calls to attend, but my parents, who spent a month with me over the last, I drove them to the airport, wanted to see them off with my nieces, heading back to Texas, home of Juneteenth. And so I told the White House, I appreciate the invite, but I would rather see my parents off. And it would be great to be there, but family was far more important to me to do so. And so you were there. So first of all, take us inside the room. Just give us a sense who was there. And we streamed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered. What was the experience like for you and those in attendance?
Well, first of all, brother, they were all asking where you were. I've only been to the White House a couple of times, and that's certainly by far the blackest I've ever seen it. And they were all asking where you were. And Andre Carlson, all them cats, Senator Warnock, all them cats, man, you know, say, hey, tell you hello and give you their love. Senator Richmond, too, who said, you know, hearing you loud and clear, that the message of accomplishment is what now the Congressional Black Caucus needs to get out, and it needs to be done through Black media. He said, I heard you loud and clear. So you just and
that's for all y'all out there who think what we say ain't being heard.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. And to Amisha and Reese, I mean, y'all used to hanging out with these cats. So, as for me, I don't really be in those circles a lot. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come here and watch. And I tell you, the most remarkable thing happened, and I think I sent you, I just had a little bit of, just took a little bit of video of when we got in. The first person we saw coming in was Miss Opal Lee, your homie, 94 years old, the sister who walked from Texas to D.C. to promote making this a federal holiday, Juneteenth. She was sitting outside the visitor center, and when it was time to go in, we all went in together. She was in a wheelchair, which apparently she doesn't really need a whole lot, because then she walked in like, hey, I'm good, has double knee replacement. I'm like, wow, you are fearless. And just as we got in past security coming in to go into the room, Simone Sanders, tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, Dr. Carr, I said, what's going on? She said, I got somebody with me. And there's the vice president, Reese's friend, Vice President Kamala Harris, who then spent about 5 minutes while they were waiting on her to get there, because she spoke first as she streamed, talking with Miss Lee. And Miss Lee, of course, had corralled Joe Biden on the campaign trail out in Nevada and told him, I will let you go when you pass this bill. And that was early in the primary season, apparently. And he remembered that, of course, and talked about that today, and as did the vice president. It's very interesting. But I'll keep this short. What you're seeing there, of course, the signing took place after the remarks. The vice president made some very powerful remarks about the nature of Juneteenth and what it's about, followed by the president, who devoted most of his remarks, which were a little shorter, but he focused on racial equity. He talked about everything from access to capital, from home loans to voting rights, to the ability of folks to go out and earn a job at a decent wage, all the policy pieces that have been put together. The only member of the White Nationalist Party I saw there, you saw there in that clip, was John Cornyn, Senator Cornyn, of course, who was from Texas. The rest of them, even if they voted for the legislation, didn't apparently want to join. But many of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus was there. It was hastily organized. But the young people on that staff, I'll end with this. Well, two other things. The young people on that staff, I actually came down with Ajwa Batwe Asmawa, who you've had on these airwaves, who was one of the leaders of African-American engagement for the Biden campaign. We go back almost 30 years. And just looking at the young people who were on staff for that administration, young Black people, I was struck by how hard they're working and how they really are zeroed in on trying to advocate for us. And the other thing was the staffers. When you go to the White House, as you all know better than I do, you see a lot of white faces in Secret Service. You see a lot of white faces in security. When we got in the room, it was mostly Black people and young Black people, young Black women and men. And two guards, I kind of stood in the back and watched. I like to watch. And I was standing next to two officers who are from Texas, two Texans like you. And the pride was palpable. The satisfaction was palpable, and the determination that this was not something that was hastily arranged and rushed through. Ron Johnson, shout out to Ron Johnson, you white nationalists, we're going to break your political back, because Johnson has had a hold on this legislation for over a year and could have lifted that hold months ago. So anybody saying they just did this, no, that's not true. That's number one. And number two, the sentiment in the room was, we are very clear that this is going to be received by many people in our community as a substitute for policy. And this is not a substitute for policy. This is just something that is to be done because this is something we think should be done. And it is no substitute for the policy agenda that we must now push through some kind of way, this United States Congress, and get this stuff across the president's desk. So that's it in a kind of nutshell.
This was the video that Greg sent me. Folks, you can go ahead and this is he just sent to me, and go ahead and replay it. Let's see here. Let's see. Turn the audio up.
It's a very brief clip.
This week, she got an assist from the United States Congress. Starting this Saturday, our country is getting a new independence.
Actually, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to do this here. Come out. I've got to do a reset. I still had the white nationalists playing in the background. That fool Tucker Carlson. Let me turn that fool off so y'all can actually hear this video here. So let's here we go.
Oh, that's practice.
Yeah, that's cool.
I remember.
That's what she kept saying. I remember. Hopefully, it's a joke, man.
Reese, I appreciate Greg shooting that, even though it greatly bothers me that Greg completely forgot the camera lessons that I have consistently given on this show, and that is to shoot horizontal. So the video fills the whole screen and not shoot vertical, because when you shoot vertical, you get these black bars.
Yes, sir.
Just everybody see, now that everybody out there, do y'all now understand why I give these camera lessons? Yep. That way we're full screen as opposed to the black bars. But but we appreciate the video, Doc.
No. In my defense, I didn't take, I don't take a lot of video. I'm not one of those people who care, but you're absolutely right.
I know. But it's not just you. People instantly do this here. I just want everybody to automatically do this. Always go do this. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, and we certainly wish I was there. But again, I was with the family. Reese, there have been a lot of folks who've been sending out tweets, and then people, this ain't enough. There are people who have actually been trashing this. There have been some others, especially some black Texans, who have taken offense. Who have been very, frankly, pissed off at some of the reaction. And let me be clear, what Greg said, I absolutely echo. We absolutely want to see policy. We absolutely want to see those important bills being passed. We are not going to relent with all of that. But there are others who have been, again, real clear. I'm trying to find, there was a tweet that Monique Daniels has sent out, Monique Presley has sent out that clapping back on a few folks because she was not happy at all and made it clear that here's this is what the tweet that she sent out, and it was actually in response to a tweet that Latasha Brown had sent out. And then Latasha later deleted it and said, you know what, you're right. This is what Monique Presley said, because Latasha had sent a tweet. Latasha, my girl, and she had sent a tweet out. Who actually had asked for Juneteenth to be a national holiday, and Monique said, me, my mom, and dad. Their parents, their elected representatives, like Al Edwards, whose statue we visited in that spot in my hometown where Juneteenth began. If any day should be a rest from labor for the millions of federal employees who are black, they should get that one. I just think it's important for us to not diminish this day and what took place in the signing of that bill. Because as a native Texan, I know how long it took, Greg, our frat brother, the late Representative Al Edwards, to get that bill to become a state holiday in Texas in 1980, and now to see it become a national holiday, the only day in America that acknowledges officially the existence of slavery in this country, Reese.
Absolutely. First of all, I guess my invite got lost to the White House chair. All the defense I play for them, the audacity to not invite me. But I guess if
throw that shade.
I'm throwing it because I'm gonna keep on my business. Next time y'all get it fried up, I'm minding my business.
I'm just saying, because I don't get calls from Douglas the second gentleman, you know, and I'm just saying, you know, and I think the vice president still kept her cell phone. I've sent texts. I ain't got none back. So
it wasn't me, Reese. I would have hooked you up. They just told me.
Yeah.
VP has a new number and nobody can get in contact with her, but I've spoken to her. But it's okay. I know it wasn't my girl. She wouldn't let me out like that. But everybody else listening, next time y'all get a fried up CBC, because I got the little email, don't call me. I'm bird box to it like everybody else is. I just had to get that out there to be petty for a minute. But Dr. Carr, you are so worthy. I bow down to you. I'm so excited that you got to go and experience my wonderful friend, the Vice President Kamala Harris. But anyway, to your point, Roland, I'm so over. I guess I'm just over. I'm over outrage being the currency. I'm over the wokeness being the currency that we all must communicate and deal with all the time. I'm exhausted by it. I'm exhausted. Y'all not exhausted by it all the time? I mean, just on Saturday when Vice President Kamala Harris was at Pride, all I saw up in the shade room and all this other stuff was, I bet you she ain't gonna keep the same energy for Juneteenth. I heard Juneteenth a million times. And then as soon as Juneteenth passes in the Senate, all of a sudden everybody is so anti the government recognizing Juneteenth. It's recognized in 47 states and DC already. What's the problem? What are y'all mad about? Why we always gotta be mad at something? When the COVID-19 hate crimes bill passed, all the black people that I saw, not all of them, but a lot of black people was, where's our black shit at? Why ain't doing something for the Asians? Where's the black bill? Why is it only Asians up in the White House? Where the black people at in the White House? Where are we gonna get something for black people? Then some passes for black people. And it's, well, it don't sit right with me that white people get to take the day off. It don't sit right with me, this, da. I'm sick of y'all. But shout out to Mother Opally. Actually, Roland, my aunt texted me. She's marching with Opally in Texas. I have family in Texas, so this is very important to them. They're naming a building after Mother Opally as well. And so she made sure to reach out to me and tell me about that. This is important to people. Black people are not a monolith. If it's not important to you, okay, that's fine. But it is important to some people. And I think it's very ignorant for people to say who asked for something that somebody as just incredible as Mother Opally, who has been working on this for decades, for it to be a federal holiday. She's literally been working on this. I don't recall anybody being mad last year when Black Lives Matter had a whole ass petition on their website. You can still find it there that said we need to make Juneteenth a holiday. Nobody had a problem with it. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. So I'm sick of y'all. I'm exhausted by y'all. I'm excited that this passed. It's already going to go into effect for federal employees, at least in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. They're getting tomorrow off. So good. Black people, it's a lot of y'all. I remember I used to go down to the State Department. The cafeteria was full of black people. It was lit up in there. Y'all got the day off tomorrow. Congratulations. Everybody's going to have to recognize that slavery existed in this country. I know critical race theory, blah, 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 da. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Y'all can be mad about that tomorrow. It's going to be back to business next week. So go ahead and for a change, just let us be great just for one day. Just let us be great for one day.
And Amisha, obviously so much attention is on President Joe Biden signing the bill today. But remember, Vice President Kamala Harris is president of the United States Senate. And this was her signing the bill when it passed the Senate. This is the photo that the White House released. And then here you have her. And then she did it standing in front of all of her staff. And trust me, that is a multiracial staff that looks a hell of a lot different than the last fool who was in the White House. And so look, I get folks talking about policy. I'm with them 100%. But again, Juneteenth as a federal holiday is now going to force all of these schools. They now got to confront it. You can't go, yeah, we're going to go from June 18th to June 20th. No, you now have to confront it. You now have to have it as part of lesson plans. It now has to be, which means you're now going to have to deal with the curriculum when it comes to it. And that's where I keep saying our responsibility is to make sure it's not white like these were not indentured servants, and these were not white refugees, and all the language that we heard in the Louisiana and the Virginia textbooks during Jim Crow. And so this does have value. And again, part of our power, now that we are amassing political power, is we now get to pass shit. We now get to propose stuff and make these things happen. And so I just think that, to Reese's point, it's a whole bunch of people who just love to bitch and moan. They will bitch and moan about bitching and moaning. And it's just, it does get, because people were texting me last night. I said, y'all, I just ignore them. I'm like, okay, whatever. As they say, devil, you ain't gonna steal my joy. You're not gonna steal my joy. And this is important. And to and last point, Amisha, to all of the folks bitching and whining, this is important to the ancestors. This is important to the ancestors. This is important to the black people who actually celebrate it every year. This is important to the ancestors who were not from Texas, but who adopted Juneteenth as their Freedom Day in North Carolina and South Carolina and Mississippi. When Texas made it a holiday in 1980, that then led to other cities and states embracing our Freedom Day. Amisha, go ahead.
No, I think that you're actually right. And I had to adjust myself on this because being a policy person and wanting to see certain other levels of change, when we're talking about voting rights, and we know that that's an uphill battle. When we're talking about housing security, we know that that's an uphill battle. Employment, where we know that that's an uphill battle for black people. There are so many things that I think are demanding news attention and are demanding the attention of the black community right now, that the one bipartisan thing that we could see Congress come together on was the Juneteenth holiday. It is monumental in and of itself, but I do also understand that there are people who are frustrated with the fact that they also want to see these other things happen, with the fact that 80% of America's public school teachers in K-12 are white women, and a third of those vehemently support not having critical race theory, and beyond that, not talking about race in the classrooms at all. So I do think that there is some lip service to be paid and some attention to be paid to those voices, but that should not overcompensate or diminish the importance of this day. From watching that video that Dr. Carr so graciously took earlier, and watching Ms. Opali, who has been on the ground, who's somebody who has that spirit, that history, that culture, and a full understanding of how important Juneteenth is and the work that it took to get here. I think that listening to people like her, seeing that level of excitement for the bill signing, talking to my own grandmother earlier today, who was a Mississippian, but is very well aware of the fight for Juneteenth and has always celebrated, even though she's not a Texan. That made a difference. And I think that, moving forward, we as black people, we have to take our wins, not say that that is the end. And I think that that was something that was spoken to very well by both Kamala Harris and President Biden today, that there are still so many things that we have to overcome. There are still so many bills that we need to get passed and so many structurally racist issues that we are working through. But today is a day we should all be celebrating because of the importance, not only historically, but also, as you spoke of earlier, Roland, this is a day that won't just be a marker. This is a day that we won't just steam through or steam past. This is a day that is going to force America to recognize its original sin. And we have not, for the longest as a nation, even admitted to the atrocities of slavery, much less had a marker on our calendar for the commemoration of a people who didn't even have it acknowledged that they were free until 2.5 years after slavery had ended. That's a big day. That's a big day, and that's a big deal.
It is. And so, again, if y'all want to sit here and go on to other little stuff, I don't really care. I know that ignorant fool. I ain't even gonna say her name. But y'all know that fake black girl. Y'all know she running her mouth and people talking about her on Twitter. Ain't gonna be no screenshot on this show of what her dumb ass said, because I don't really care. I don't really care what she think or the white nationalists who she rolled with. It's just as simple as that. But I do. Greg, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, brother, to pick up on what Reese and Amisha said about the significance of this ritual of Juneteenth. Juneteenth was never just a celebration of our liberation struggle, a watershed moment. It was always, Juneteenth is all, and you know this better than any of us as a Texan, Juneteenth is always connected with purpose. So it isn't just celebration, it's also about dedication to a struggle. And, it's interesting. You mentioned Al Edwards. Something standing there talking to what's the representative from Texas? Your man's
Al Green, Representative Al Green.
And I said, you know what? What would Al Edwards say, man? He said he would be here today, brother, if he wasn't an ancestor. And I said he said this is a day that he fought for in Texas. Talking to Steve Holford, Representative Horsford out of Nevada, whose people are from Trinidad. I said, you know what's funny, brother? They think this is about a domestic holiday. They don't realize that Juneteenth is one of the Liberation Day celebrations that connects to where your people are from. He said, yeah, my people from Trinidad. And of course, in Trinidad, they call it Emancipation Day. Talking with Karen Bass and seeing her there with Representative Barbara Lee. Some of the oldest Juneteenth celebrations outside of Texas are in the Bay Area. And of course, Amisha, you know this better than any of us. Chicago has huge Juneteenth rituals that they do. That because the migration patterns out of Mississippi. So Danny Davis standing there. And for that matter, Gwen Moore out of Wisconsin, Milwaukee has some of the oldest. And I was standing there talking to Dwight Evans. I say, man, remember our brother when Ron Brown and the Juneteenth Memorial Committee in Philly, he said, yeah, man, it goes back 25 years. So to your point, Juneteenth is about a liberation ritual that connects to Decoration Day, which this country turned into Memorial Day, but it started in South Carolina. Juneteenth connects to the watch service when black folks prayed in the North. And then January 1st, 1863, got up off their knees, got some guns and ended the Civil War by joining the military. They call that our Emancipation Day. So, I mean, just to echo, the United States may have one agenda for black people, but we have always had another agenda for ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with getting paid for a day off that you were going to take anyway. Because if you remember the origins of the Martin Luther King federal holiday, we started taking that off before anybody recognized it. And so many black people started doing it. Finally, at the local level, they said, shit, we got to make this a holiday. Juneteenth is not that different. We determine our destiny in this.
Absolutely. And I do want to, so go to my computer. This is, y'all, that's Al Edwards. He died last year at the age of 83. He is the father of Juneteenth in Texas. And that's his quote. Every year we must remind successive generations that this event triggered a series of events that one by one defines the challenges and responsibilities of successive generations. That's why we need this holiday. My alpha brother, Greg, our alpha brother, State Representative Al Edwards. And let me say this last point before I go to my next story, which also ties into this here. For those of you who are African Americans who don't have any understanding nor appreciation for emancipation days in the African diaspora,
that's right.
What I need y'all to understand is that there is a founding date of these African nations by the colonizers, but there's a different day that's celebrated when they got their independence. The Haitians have a separate day. In many of these other Caribbean countries, Ghana and other African nations, they have Independence Day from the colonizers. So for everybody who wants to act like, oh, this ain't no big deal, do understand, Frederick Douglass, what does the 4th of July mean to the slave? And we every year we have that, I put together that reading of all these black voices. We run it every July 4th. Y'all, you better learn your history to understand that July 4th was never ours. Oh, sure. Hey, we're American. We celebrate July 4th. But we were not included on July 4th, 1776. And yes, as Karl Marx said, there were more than 200,000 people of African descent who were still enslaved after Juneteenth. But the fact that we, America, now, from here to eternity, listen to me clearly, America, from here to eternity, has to acknowledge at least once a year the institution of slavery and what it was and what it required to actually give us not our true freedom, but our freedom from chattel slavery, because we still had 92 years of slavery without shackles with Jim Crow. I started the show off, y'all, talking about these white supremacists and white nationalists and then what their agenda is. I'm going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to the folks in Media Matters who track Fox News and these conservative voices. You need to be fully aware of the racial hate that is about to come down because of this holiday signing today. We will explain only on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany. I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
All right, folks, so we're getting the video ready, so we're going to show you just a quick bite of our Essence throwback. Lonnie Love from Essence Festival. Let's go.
So I want y'all, this is so tell me about this African outfit you got on.
You know what? It's my hair. It matches his outfit. Don't be
Yes, gold and gold.
Why are you messing with me and I'm hungover? No, I'm hungover. Sunday, I done been hanging out with Idris. He had me out to 3:30 in the morning, him and his fiance.
I ran to you on Friday and you were hungover. Yeah. That was the first night.
It's Essence Fest. That's what we do. We eat, we get hungover, we party, we get hungover again. We come to support our friends at the luncheons.
So you're looking for what? Come on now. You don't see. Look at you. Stay out of there. Stay out of there. Grown man zone. Grown man zone. That's all. Jackie Hood.
Oh my God.
And remember, she a preacher. She will put you on that prayer wall.
I know. I want to keep praying for me. Now put a curse. So.
All right, y'all. Don't forget the 2021 Essence Festival of Culture virtual festival is going to be all online. You can go to essence.com. Tis right here. You can go, of course, essence.com or essencestudios.com Friday through Sunday, June 25th through the 27th, and July 2nd through the 4th. And so we certainly appreciate Coca-Cola partnering with us, and so we all going to be checking that out. All right, folks, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law banning the teaching of critical race theory in Texas public school system. House Bill 3979, while it's not specifically mentioned the term critical race theory, it prohibits schools from teaching that an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of the individual's race or sex. It's a stupid bill. It also prevents schools from making students adopt an understanding of the 1619 Project. This means there are now 5 states banning critical race theory in schools: Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Idaho, all led by idiot Republicans. The folks at Media Matters for America, they've been tracking this thing. I talked about it yesterday. They dropped a study revealing Fox News has mentioned the term critical race theory nearly 1,300 times in the past 3.5 months. Sergio Munoz, senior advisor at Media Matters for America, joins us right now. Sergio, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Sergio, I lay out at the top of the show when I was talking about Juneteenth, what we're dealing with when it comes to this re-emergence, this far more public re-emergence of white nationalism. I'm working on a book right now that will drop in 2022 called White Fear, how the browning of America is making the white folks lose their minds. And they're being led by Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, white conservative talk radio show host. And you could throw in some black people, some other people of color who follow along with them, like the idiot Candace Owens and the idiot Brandon Tatum and the rest of them. But this is a clearly defined strategy by Fox News, which is what they've always done, is to appeal to their white base and press their racial buttons. And I dare say Juneteenth, this signing today is going to just send these fools over a cliff.
Thank you very much for having me. And I think you're absolutely right. The thesis that you laid out at the beginning, this is something which really has been the province of right-wing media and Fox News for quite some time, figuring out ways to stir up and ride white backlash against any progress towards a true multiracial democracy. They've been doing it for years. It's been a successful commercial strategy, and it's also, to be frank, been a successful way of turning out Republican voters, unfortunately. We've seen this time and again. And as you mentioned, we've watched Fox News very carefully since our creation. And one thing we always were aware of was that Fox News took a particular delight in misinforming about true civil rights law, policy, and history. They've been doing it forever. They figured out that this is a way that not only can they misinform their audience about race-conscious policy and law, which is very much constitutional, but they can also stir up white resentment for that electoral gain that you were alluding to previously. So when last summer we saw them talking about critical race theory out of really nowhere, an academic topic which is taught mostly in law schools and graduate classes, definitely not a current currency, not only on the right, but honestly in the left discourse. We marked it down as yet another way of them attempting to scaremonger about constitutional civil rights policy. However, very quickly, it got picked up by the one person who perhaps was watching Fox News more than anyone else, and that was the former President Donald Trump. By all accounts, he saw a segment on Tucker Carlson where someone lied about critical race theory. Their go-to strategy is just to call anything that has anything to do with anti-racism efforts or diversity efforts or civil rights history and just call it critical race theory, even if it has nothing to do with academic doctrine. Donald Trump apparently saw the hit and asked his people to drop an executive order banning the teaching of critical race theory and other anti-racism trainings in federal trainings. They issued this executive order. President Biden recently rescinded it. It was also under litigation because it was so questionable. So the real world effects were happening pre-election. And just like the Republican Party usually does, they were definitely going to it to see if it could mobilize their base. However, we did not see Fox News really lean into it until about February of this year. And when they leaned into it, they did so significantly. In addition to calling everything that they thought was remotely had to do with anti-racism or civil rights efforts, critical race theory, they talked about it incessantly, nearly 1,300 times in the past 3.5 months. They've been talking it since September of last year, but they really spiked now. And I think I want to put it in context, the same context that I think you were discussing previously. These are old tactics. These are old tactics of right-wing media. These are old tactics of Republicans. Since the success of the Tea Party, they've been trying to find issues that would galvanize their white base and get them to turn out. But of all times, to really turn to this one, which attacks civil rights and tries to deny what history is, literally whitewashing history, our history of white supremacy in this country. Of all times to do this, after months of election denialism, after months of new voter suppression efforts, after literally a neo-Confederate insurrection at the Capitol, this is throwing a match into a tinderbox. So we're trying to spread the alarm. I know a lot of other people are. I know you are as well. But this is something to keep an eye on. Maybe at first they were just throwing stuff on the wall to see what sticks. But this is sticking, and it could have extremely dangerous consequences. So us and other organizations and allies and folks like yourself are raising the alarm, and I think it's warranted. Maybe this won't be the worst white backlash we've seen, but I don't want to take the chance, and neither do our friends.
But Sergio, here's the deal, and this is what I told people on yesterday. And frankly, these idiots in mainstream media need to learn the lesson. I can tell you when I was at CNN for 6 years, it used to drive me crazy when they would take the bait all the time. They would sit here And I'll never forget when, and people need to understand how these things happen. The people who made the Drudge Report, the so-called most powerful website, it was actually mainstream media. Because every move he made, they would tout it. They would push it out. I'll never forget. I got a call one day, and they wanted me to they wanted me to discuss this item on the Drudge Report that said that Oprah was catching a lot of flack from white women because of her support from Obama, and she wouldn't have Sarah Palin on, and she was considering ending her stance of not having any candidates on, and they would talk about all this dissension. And the moment I saw it, I said, that's a lie. Mm-hmm. And they were like, what? I said, first of all, you fools read the Drudge Report every day, all because of him reporting that Newsweek didn't report about the Monica Lewinsky dress or whatever the hell. And I said, no, I don't read Drudge. I will never read Matt Drudge. My life does not revolve around reading Matt Drudge. And I had to explain to them, I said, y'all, this is what Oprah said several months ago. She said after her endorsement of Obama, she wasn't having any candidates on. I said, y'all, she ain't reconsidering this. I ended up sending an email to Gayle King. Gayle was like, oh, hell no. I came back and I was kind of like, I told you fools that. But see, what the right does is what they do is they get together and they say, we're going to do this whole thing. And then we're going to call out mainstream media. And mainstream media is going to go, oh, my God, they're talking about us. What should we do? Put it on the air. Put it on the air. So mainstream media weaponizes the whatever this thing that right-wing media puts out. And then it comes into mainstream media. And then it becomes a thing. And then it continues and it grows and gets bigger. And the right wing gets to sit back and see, ooh, it worked again. Steve Bannon literally articulated this. This was what Roger Ailes' strategy was. When I was at CNN, I used to tell them, why are we talking about Fox News? They ain't talking about us. Why y'all chasing them? Do you? That's the game, and mainstream falls for the okie doke and the banana in the tailpipe every time.
You're absolutely right. And we actually did a study a couple months ago. I'm sure you remember it, but there was a time when the word border crisis was everywhere. And we actually looked at the coverage, and the right-wing media ecosystem, of which Fox News was obviously a huge part, they started it. And then you could see the trend lines of CNN and MSNBC following. And that is something that they have, as you say, a lot of experience in, and they know what they're doing. They know that they can drag the conversation. Now, maybe CNN and MSNBC and other mainstream outlets, maybe they don't always repeat the lie, but they're repeating the framing, even if they're just saying it's being talked about. And they're putting it into the conversation. They're shifting the window, if you will. And as you say, it is intentional, and it's extremely dangerous. You know, you started your show by talking about this legislation that's coming out, this absurd legislation, which not only makes it impossible to talk about race, makes it impossible to talk about American history, but now media has to report on the fact that this legislation is being passed, that these politicians are doing this. It's a self-reinforcing feedback cycle, which is not accidental, and it's extremely dangerous. And it happens again and again that the other media outlets follow this siren call.
Here's a perfect example. So go to my computer, folks. You'll see right here. So today, the Supreme Court case 7-2, where they basically affirmed, they threw out this case challenging the Affordable Care Act. This is a tweet by President Obama. Today, the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act. Again, this ruling reaffirms what we have long known to be true. The Affordable Care Act is here to stay. Why is that important? Because Obama's not saying Obamacare. I can tell you, Sergio, when I said this directly to President Obama. I said it to Valerie Jarrett. I said it to all the people in the White House. Why in the hell are y'all using the phrase Obamacare? They're like, well, Obama does care. I said, it is a poll-tested phrase by the right to demonize it And what you're doing is weaponizing it. I said, you're not turning it around. You're actually solidifying it in the marketplace. And that's why every time Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert or someone will go out and they will interview somebody, they will go, Obamacare, oh my God, I hate it. It's got to go. Affordable Care Act. I love it. And I was like, what are y'all doing? You're playing their game.
They know what they're doing. This is a strategy that they've tested out for a long time. As you mentioned, Fox News was set up by political Republican operatives. We've started to look into the networks that are pushing this on the local level and the legislatures. They are all veteran operatives for the most part. A lot of the so-called parents that you're seeing on Fox News and Newsmax, they are also GOP activists and operatives. This is intentional. This is a web of coordination. We can take educated guesses of who's involved with it and who is behind it. But, at the end of the day, we're probably not going to be surprised about what we find. Mm-hmm. This is a tested playbook, as you mentioned, that they've tried over and over again and successfully.
Sergio, we appreciate the work of Media Matters for America. Thank you so very much. And we are very mindful here of what the right wing pushes and not falling for their okie doke.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. I want to go to my panel here. Reese, you and I talk about this all the time. And one of the greatest frustrations that you have and that I have, and let me be real clear, and I love these people who talk about Roland Martin, super Democrat. No, I'm not. I'm super black. See, I'm smart enough to understand what party officially wants to make my life and that of my nieces and nephews and church members and fraternity brothers more difficult. I've never self-identified as a Democrat. I've never self-identified as a Republican. I voted for people in both parties, but I'm not stupid. I can read, I can listen. Mm-hmm. And one of the greatest frustrations that I have is that Democrats are absolutely stuck on stupid when it comes to messaging. When all these Democrats they were these progressives bitching about the Lincoln Project, I'm like, why y'all complaining about the Lincoln Project? Y'all should be studying them. Y'all should be saying, damn, they put out some strong ads. Why our stuff look cheap and raggedy? Why it look bad? I mean, when you and I talked about, you talk about memes. We're living in a meme culture. Understanding how memes work, how you use it to your advantage. Folk who are Democrats and progressives, I think the problem, you can be so smart, you dumb. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the problem. But the right, their whole deal is messaging.
And I think, unfortunately, the Democrats overestimate the intelligence and engagement of the general public, and the Republicans do not make that mistake. Therefore, they know how to hit those emotional triggers, and they know that people are not going to interrogate or examine the narratives that are put in front of them if it's put in front of them in a way that's easy to digest, in a way that seems somewhat credible, and in a way that like I said, invokes that emotional trigger. So yes, the Democrats need to, number one, get on some damn offense. Number two, understand that you don't beat the narratives that the Republicans set and then the media makes, regurgitates them and reinforces them by just batting them away. You have to go right to it. You have to be more forceful. You have to reject those narratives and nip them in the bud. And then you have to provide a counter narrative, because what the media is interested in, outside of places obviously like yourself, Roland Martin Unfiltered, is they're interested in entertainment. And the media is its own biggest cheerleader. The media has made themselves the story time and time again, and they are much more comfortable going after Democrats than they are going after Republicans, because Republicans will punch them in the face, rhetorically speaking, that is. And so what the Democrats need to realize is that it's not just what you do, it's what people know about what you do. And unfortunately, perception is reality. And if people perceive all these negative things about the Democrats, like, we have talked about the CBC before. People perceive the CBC as not being forced, not all people, but some people, not doing X, Y, and Z. And that becomes the reality. And they are massively outgunned. I mean, I shared earlier, Teddy Riley and Pete Rock and all these black celebrities and people are reposting Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, a whole ass white supremacist. But because a video of her challenging things that people want to hear, which is people want to be anti-vaccination. And so people will repost a white supremacist, a person who doesn't believe that racism against black people exists. That kind of person makes it onto feeds of so-called pro-black pages and pro-black celebrities, and it's being presented back to us as though this is something that's beneficial to us, even though they're doing the work of white supremacists. And so Democrats need to have a reckoning around this. I've been sounding this alarm for years now. I've been sounding it long before it was anybody had even been talking about it. Really, I said black social media has been infiltrated. And when I said it about Vice President Kamala Harris, people didn't give a damn. Now we have a situation like in New York, for instance, where they've reached 70% vaccination as a city, but 70% of black people haven't even had one dose. And that's not accidental. That is because of exercises like this anti-vax shit that is laser-like targeting and permeating our community. And at first it was an access issue. Now there's a huge issue that we still are not confronting. And so we have to come to terms with this, not just for the sake of democratic politics, because at the end of the day, that's one thing or another, but for our own health, for the health of our community, for democracy, for just agreeing on a basic set of facts. We have to come to terms with the fact that messaging and narratives is beating out facts.
Amisha, here's the deal. If you want a perfect example, oh my God, I can't even believe what I'm seeing. Amisha, you're a Democratic strategist, right? Do you recognize this here? This is the Democrats. This is the official page of the Democrats. Can you explain to me, I'm gonna click media right here. Can you explain to me, I see a meme. Where's their video? How do you not have a video up? How? How do you know for Juneteenth? Like, how do you not have it ready? Like, you literally could have edited 50 seconds and you drop him signing it at the end, see again, that's how fast your opposition moves. They know how to frame the argument. Like, this is fine, but, okay, President Biden has made Juneteenth a federal holiday. First of all, you use a photo from the Oval Office and he didn't even sign it in the Oval Office. You don't even use a photo of him surrounded by black people. Amisha,
it's
like I'm just saying. I'm like
no.
Go ahead.
Right. You're absolutely right here, Roland. And as somebody who began my career not only doing political strategy, but also doing political communications for Democrats, I left the communications arena for Democrats because at the end of the day, you get tired of getting punched because they're not listening to you. Democrats have been using the exact same strategy for decades now, and it has failed for decades now. It is one of those things where there's convoluted language, as you showcase very well. There's that bar graph that nobody's going to see and nobody's going to listen to, where Republicans are punchy. They recognize that the American people have short attention spans. They stick to that same message. The message can be wrong as hell, but they know how to appeal to emotion, and they're going to talk about it for the next 3, 4, 5 generations. This is something Democrats have yet to fully understand or yet to even be equipped to even showcase in a matchup. In a communications matchup, Republicans will always defeat Democrats because Democrats are light years behind them. But on top of that, Democrats try to put way too much in one message. And it's one of those things that ends up getting convoluted. They end up getting lost in their own words. It becomes really frustrating because these aren't people who aren't getting paid top dollar in terms of being some of the strongest communications professionals, but these are individuals who, by and large, do not know how to talk to the American voter and the American
They don't know what the hell.
They do not know how to punch back. They do not know how to respond to the lie. They do not know how to stay on a message that people can actually take and understand. What Republicans know and what they know well is that people have short attention spans. People like to latch onto things, whether real or false, that actually appeal to a certain sense of emotion. To Reese's point earlier, we were talking about the vaccinations. Republicans have done a really good job of pushing an anti-vax narrative, pushing a narrative that if you're a young person, if you're a woman who is interested in getting pregnant again, guess what? The vaccine is going to ruin your chances of becoming a mom. All of those things are false. But I have yet to see the Democratic Party or Democrats who are pushing to get people vaccinated actually defeat these narratives. It's frustrating because time and time again, Democrats get caught, with their pants down, so to speak, when it comes to not being ready for these attacks that Republicans use over and over and over again. The communications repertoire of the Democratic Party, quite frankly, has not changed, has not moved in the past 50 years. And with the advent of social media, as we expected Democrats to get stronger, because we saw, the Obama administration and Obama as a campaigner on the campaign trail be the first politician to really use social media, it has not advanced beyond that. The Trump administration, Trump himself, and his acolytes have been able to basically run circles around Democrats. And it's really frustrating because it seems like the lessons of the past are not being learned. Democrats are continuing to fall on their face over and over and over again and are losing the messaging battle and losing it fast.
Perfect example. This is supposed to be the rapid response, Greg, of the DNC. Is called DNC War Room, the official Twitter account for the Democrats' War Room. Their pinned tweet is from November 24th, 2020. Okay, all right, fine. Okay, got it. But they put a tweet out an hour ago about the Affordable Care Act using the video of Obama and Joe Biden from 2010. Okay, but it was put out an hour ago. Guess what actually happened 4 hours ago? The Juneteenth signing. Do you see it anywhere on the War Room? No, you don't see it anywhere on the War Room. Let me show you coordination. The DCCC, that's the Congressional Campaign folks. Okay, they got the Mark Vesey tweet. I got that. Guess what? Nothing on Juneteenth. Oh, there it is. Oh, they retweeted ABC News. No, you might want to have your own tweet on it. That's all I'm saying. You might want to have that. Okay, very smart to have the video from 4 years ago, from 6 years ago, acknowledging Mother Emanuel. But the bottom line is you have to understand messaging. What the right keeps doing, Greg, is here's the deal. The left, Democrats and progressives, they try to make an intellectual appeal to voters. The right makes an emotional appeal. As somebody who has raised money in front of black people, talk to any preacher who will tell you, I got to make an emotional connection with you. I got to understand how to push your button. I'm a supporter of school choice. I believe in every form of education as long as it works. And I have gone in front of rooms, 80, 90% hate charter schools. And I stand up and I tell them, I said, do you want to control the curriculum of our children? People go, yes. Can you do it with the existing school system? Can you do it running your charter school? Do you want to control the budget in the school? Having your own charter school, you can control the budget. Do you want to determine who you hire? Do you want to create partnerships with your HBCU to create a pipeline of teachers to your school? Yeah, you know you can do that when you run your own school. Black people go, hold up, wait a minute, hold up. So I can control the curriculum? I can control who I hire? I can control the money. I'm like, can you do that with your traditional school? They go, damn, I had no idea. It's understanding your audience. This is why the right is what they're doing. They are sitting here and every little racial deal, they're going to say, press, 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 because they need a massive, white, uneducated turnout in 2022 to win the Senate and to win the House.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that the Democrats don't do more is because they're chasing those same white voters. This is white on white crime, but we're all victims. You can't embrace black people. At least the Democrats don't seem to think you can. The Democratic Party is a soft white nationalist party. It's not hard white nationalist. It's not fascist like the white nationalist party, the open white nationalist party, the Republicans, but it is soft white nationalist. What do I mean by that? What I'm saying is that the Democratic Party will not confront whiteness. Now, in 1962, Richard Hofstadter wrote a book called Anti-Americanism and American Life, a very famous title. And he traces something, among many other things he does in the book, that is as old as the formation of this settler state. You had the Know Nothing Party, the anti-immigrant party in the 19th century. I mean, you had the free, they labeled the people who were against slavery free soilers, and then they tried to make them into lunatics. They said John Brown was crazy. I mean, you label those who are speaking to our common humanity, and then you embrace whiteness. Now, the reason Democrats won't fight back is because they, too, are invested in whiteness. Let me be very specific about that. It's very interesting. You talk about messaging and the Democrats. Today, for example, standing there talking with Cedric Richmond, he brought up something that's very powerful. He said, we've got to do a better job of messaging in our community to help people understand that beginning next month, if you got a 6-year-old in your house and your family making $150,000, you can ready to get $300 a month. If you got 3 of them, you can ready to get $900 a month. Do you understand that money doesn't have a color? Now, you got Lauren Ball, a white nationalist. A person who at least she must have some type of brain function because she can go to the bathroom and eat and stuff. So there's something in her head that is regulating her bodily functions. But beyond that, there's really no discernible intellect at work. Her district in Colorado contains one of only 3 plants in the United States of America that are equipped to produce steel rail. Yet she rails against the infrastructure bill when an infrastructure bill fully funded would put half her damn district back to work in the factory that makes the rails.
Boom.
But the problem is that these Democrats will not take on white people. Now, I told somebody this today. I said, you know what? People are going to say, well, y'all rushed this Juneteenth thing through. Ron Johnson held that thing up for months. This is what I said. What if y'all had done this? Postpone the signing for 2 weeks until you could get all the people like Miss Lee there who were all over the country and get them to come to sign. And in that 2-week period, I want you to take the fact that Ron Johnson is the one that did this, make a lovely garland necklace and hang it around that Klansman's neck. But see, you're not going to do that. Why? Because you think there are 3 toothless white voters in Wisconsin that you can convince for the 150 millionth time to vote for you. You're not going to fight. Joe Manchin today said, you know what, this is what I'll do. It ain't what we want completely, but guess what? Raphael Warnock said, I can support that. Stacey Abrams says, I'm for it. So the head of the damn Klan in this country, Mitch Klan McDonald, comes out and says, see, but you just lost Joe Manchin. What are the Democrats going to do? Well, y'all not going to fight white people. And because you're not going to fight white people, you're going to pull us into this flaming wreck called the United States of America. Because I promise you, I have no investment in this country. I don't. Because I understand what it is. I know too much about how it operates. And this is what you're coming to. You are coming to a reckoning, and there may not be a country left when you're finished. So I encourage Tucker Carlson and them. I revel in watching them. Why? Because you are going to blow the engine in this settler project. And once it crumbles, maybe then we can build out of that wreckage something that more closely resembles an equitable society. But I just really don't see any other way to do this because they're not going to fight white people.
And the only way you win, you got to fight them, which is why,
yes!
which is why I said to Senator Bernie Sanders directly to his face when he kept talking about identity politics. I said, y'all think I'm lying? I had a meeting with Senator Bernie Sanders in his office when he ran for president. And I said, and it was set up by Rick. It was set up by his former campaign leader. I said, Senator, let me tell you something right now. I said, you keep talking about identity politics one more time. I said, you keep talking about it the way you're talking about it, we gonna have a problem. I said, what you need. I said, because what you need to understand is, I said, you literally are using the language of these white supremacists on the right. Mm-hmm. Sanders was mad that he wasn't getting the female vote and the black vote. And I said, that ain't why you lost. I said, you don't clearly understand identity politics. You don't even understand the phrasing. You don't even understand why they are weaponizing it. I said, you literally are using their own weapon and you're weaponizing it against your own.
That's right.
So for all y'all out there, yeah, I met with him in his office and told him that if he continues to attack identity politics, we gonna have a problem. I said, and I'm gonna come after you hard. Yes, I said it. And I said to him point blank, which I said directly to President Barack Obama, which I have said to Vice President Joe Biden, which I have said to Tom Perez, y'all gotta go talk to white folks. Y'all gotta go have hardcore conversation with white folks. This Supreme Court decision right here on the Affordable Care Act, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna say it publicly. This is what needs to happen. Not Vice President Kamala Harris.
No.
President Joe Biden needs to pick the whitest,
that's right,
brokest, sickest county in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana. Let me repeat it. He need to pick the whitest, brokest, sickest, more than likely is Red County. And he needs to go there and look them in the eye and said, and I'm using his language, me and Barack passed the Affordable Care Act for all of y'all.
Yes, sir.
Because you are the sickest county in your whole state. He should read the facts to him. And then he should say, so I need all of you to go ask, if he's talking to Texas, he should say, using the language that I'm using, White House, y'all ain't got to write the speech, Roe wrote it for you. He should say, I need all of you to ask your senator, John Cornyn, and Ted Cruz.
That's right.
And ask your governor, Greg Abbott, and ask your attorney general, Ken Paxton, and ask your lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick, how dare they oppose Medicaid expansion? How dare they oppose the Affordable Care Act? And he should say, and a lot of you voted for them, yet you are living in the sickest, poorest county in the whole state. Who do you think we passed the law for?
That's right.
It was for you. And go repeat that same speech in all them broke, white, red states. Stop going to the suburbs of Ohio and Virginia and Maryland. No, go to the place that needs to hear it the most. And then you got the facts. And Republicans say, that ain't right. No, these are the stats.
That's right.
This is when you say, this is what he pulls out one of his little index cards and he goes, according to this state, Amisha, X percentage of you are having, X percentage of you have cancer. X percentage of you have this. Y'all, and he say, these aren't my numbers. These are your state numbers. That's how you fire back.
No, you're exactly right. And this is all publicly available data. We know that of the states that you just mentioned, those are the states with the worst health outcomes in America. Some with the worst health outcomes or close to, third world country outcomes when it comes to health. It is very frustrating that we're allowing, and this goes back to messaging, we're allowing Republicans to continue to push this narrative to their own people who are dying every day. And the Affordable Care Act, it was designed, it was designed to help people who not only didn't have access to healthcare, health insurance, but to also advance community clinics and community health care for individuals who previously had none in their existence. And a lot of those did fall on rural areas where they did not have clinics, rural areas where you might have one hospital for an entire county of people. That's what the ACA was created for. So as much as they were, Republicans were throwing shade to it because they didn't like the Obamacare nomenclature, the Obamacare name, at the end of the day, the ACA was written in large part due to take care of the very people who hated so much of its existence. And I think that right now is a time for the Biden administration to do a victory lap. But like you said, Roland, it's also time for them to actually go and visit those rural areas that they were so afraid to visit and have consistently been afraid to visit because of the conservative pushback, because of the rhetoric, but also because Democrats have yet to be able to frame a message to the people who are literally dying toothless, aren't able to provide for their families every single day. You know who was excited about those COVID relief checks the most? Those people.
Boom.
You know who was excited about the potential of an infrastructure package the most? Those people. There is a baked-in set of narrative that Democrats could use for this group.
It ain't
that
hard.
For whatever reason, we're not seeing happen.
It ain't hard. I know how to flip a room. And let me tell you something right now. Please. And again, do not send Kamala Harris. I need white people.
That's right.
To go. I need President Joe Biden to dispatch Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Amy Klobuchar to Wisconsin, rural Pennsylvania, rural North Carolina, rural Florida. I'm telling y'all, this ain't that hard. All right, y'all, I got to go to a break. We come back. Why is Hollywood afraid of black gay people, loving black gay people? We're going to explain next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
White supremacy ain't just about hurting black folk.
Right.
You got to deal with it. It's injustice. It's wrong.
I do feel like in this generation, we've got to do more around being intentional in resolving conflict.
You and I have always agreed.
Yeah.
But we agree on the big piece.
Yeah.
Our conflict is not about destruction.
Conflict's going to happen.
Here at Essence Festival 2018 with Ruth Carter, of course, and everybody keeps saying Ruth Carter, Black Panther, but she's done a hell of a lot more movies than that. How many movies have you done in terms of costumes?
Oh, I don't think I've counted lately, but I think it's over 35.
Right. So, I mean, and I say that because you're not new to this. You know, people all of a sudden like, oh, my God, because of Black Panther. No, you've been in this game.
Yeah, I've been in this game for sure. Of 35 years, Malcolm X, two nominations, Amistad, Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It? I've been doing this a long. I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work. And then I looked up one day, and it was 35 years later. So what can I tell you?
Are you amazed, though, how many people, again, because of the success of Black Panther, not only are they interested in the various African fashion elements, but also they now realize there's another aspect of Hollywood filmmaking that's not just a director or the folks who are in front of the camera?
Yeah, it's really nice that the costume in Black Panther kind of brought costume design to light. And I have been designing for superheroes for a long time. Malcolm X was a superhero. Tina Turner was a superhero. But the global impact that the Black Panther did, you know, it made $1.4 billion. And it touched a lot of people. So, you know, to have done like the life's work and really given the Black Panther your all really is heartfelt to see all the people that have embraced it.
You and I, we've talked several times about the movie itself. You've had so many other interviews. Have you considered, or if you've already done it, really putting something together? I mean, the amount of research that you had to go through it, where people really need to understand all of that, and then where certain things came from, and it wasn't just from this particular African nation. Anything along those lines that's sort of a guide, a how-to, or just because it's an interesting backstory how certain pieces got on screen.
Yeah, well, I do have an exhibition of my work that I have mounted, and it's going to launch in Pittsburgh in August. And what that is, it's actually a walk through history. It's a walk through film history. It's a walk through my design process. And actually, you know, the Black Panther kind of seals the circle. You know, we start with roots and Amistad, and we have the American experience. But actually, the Black Panther gives us like a backstory that goes beyond slavery. So it's a really exciting exhibition that I'm putting together, and I think that's the start of what you're talking about. You know, what is it that you do, and how do I do it? I know those questions are out there, so I'm just going to step my way through it. I'm still a costume designer, so that's like a whole nother, you know, ball of wax there.
Yeah, but the reality is, even though costume design, you also have to be a major historian and researcher to do what you do as well.
Yeah, I love the research. I love looking at the work of James Vanderzee, Gordon Parks. You know, I have an extensive library at home. You know, now with the internet, I do a lot of research online. It's just kind of like another part of the passion. You have to have a passion for people and understand the psychology of what they wore in order to actually dress a character. We're character builders. We're storytellers as opposed to fashion designers.
And just so y'all know, trust me, I went to communications high school where we were taught, matter of fact, anytime we watched a movie, we had to watch the movie to the end of the credits. Our instructor said, no, you need to know who also made the film. And so, and I was in high school, so even what happens now, I might see a film and I might go, oh, Terry Shropshire was the editor. Oh, Ruth was doing our costume design because we've had to do it. And so it forces you to realize that there's more to it than just, again, the typical folks we know about.
And listen, I sat in the movie theater before I became a costume designer when I heard about this profession and I read the credits. There were so many people in the credits. I said to myself, there is a place for me in the entertainment industry. True story.
So I got to say this as well. So when you talk about now because of the success of this movie, so this actually happened. So I'm watching the movie and I see this outfit. It probably was on the screen for like 10 seconds. And I was like, Ruth, I need to see that actual outfit. All I said was just the back. It was just the back, and it was on for that long. Yeah. But I said, okay, that's fire.
Yeah, and then I sent you a text of a picture of it, and you were like, that's the one. So, yeah, that was the special time when T'Challa was taking the throne. And, you know, Kente is worn primarily for special occasions. So we lined his full-length vest with Kente.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Of course, the brother who actually designed it, you sent me his information, so we're chatting. So y'all gonna see that. Yes. You're gonna see me wearing it.
Yes, he made it. I designed it.
See, there we go. Cool. All right, that's fine. I give credit.
Yeah, no, Carl in Atlanta. Yeah, he's your go-to guy.
All right, then. It was always good to see you. And what's the next movie? What are you working on?
I'm doing Dolomite, the Rudy Ray Moore story with Eddie Murphy, 1970s.
Lots of polyester.
Yes, it's wonderful. It looks so good.
All right, Ruth, always good to see you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, y'all, don't forget to watch the 2021 Essence Festival of Culture live, loud, virtual experience at essencestudios.com and essence.com Friday through Sunday over 2 weekends, June 25th through the 27th and July 2nd through the 4th. And we appreciate this partnership with Coca-Cola. All right, folks, June is Pride Month, and the topic we're about to talk about, we've actually discussed this before with one of our guests, Cleo Monago, but as a representation of LGBTQ actors of color increases, actors are still struggling with visibility in the industry, in addition to folks complaining about the lack of opportunity for authentic black same-sex loving characters. Here's what's also interesting. When you start breaking down what you're seeing on the screen, how many actually black-on-black same-sex loving characters do you see? Why isn't it always a black character with a white character? Carolyn Weisinger, she was board president of San Francisco Pride. Dr. Cleo Monago, chief advisor, Black Men's Exchange, and film producer Kurt Moore. Glad to have all three of you on the show. I'm gonna start with Cleo. Cleo, we've had this conversation before, and you've been highly critical of very prominent blacks, same gender loving folks who you say keep promoting this as well. And you've argued, just like when you have black folks who are saying, yo, you want to see, when you say you want to see black love, your deal is like, yo, why is it that that black dude always got to have a white dude?
Well, I don't have a question about that. I just acknowledge it in. No,
right. You don't question it, but we discussed it, and you stated that it's a problem because what we're seeing and what it projects.
Yeah, it's a problem, but I want to preface my comments with it's very difficult also outside of the comedy context to find black on black love in the landscape, period, the pop culture landscape. There is no reliable heterosexual love story on a weekly basis that's not a comedy in the popular culture landscape. So it's a problem all the way around.
I will give you a little pushback, Queen Sugar.
But you have to give me a little, though. See, that's my point. It's just a little pushback.
Well, I'll say Greenwood, Queen Sugar. I mean, there are some, but go right ahead. I get your point.
So there's a lot of issues here. One is the LGBTQ white, particularly queer, are white social political constructs that are very self-serving and politically active and white determined and white led. So everything that happens trickles down to the empowerment of white people. So the black people that we know on a first name basis, I'm not gonna say any names yet, but I might before the show's over if you want me to. The majority of the black same gender loving people that we know about in popular culture are with white partners. And that's not necessarily them choosing themselves to be in front of the camera all the time, affirming whiteness. White people are making the choices of who we get to see. So we see who they choose, and they choose people who they know have a love or affection for them. Because that's what white gay culture is about, the affirmation of whiteness and white people and white homosexuals.
Carolyn,
That's why I don't identify with the culture, and I refer to myself as a same gender loving black man. As you know, I don't do LGBTQ in the alphabet soup.
Oh, no, I know that because whenever, matter of fact, I was somewhere speaking and I said same gender loving, and they were like, what is that? I said, call Cleo. I said, clearly you don't watch Roland Martin Unfiltered. Carolyn, you were shaking your head in the affirmative as Cleo was talking.
Many different things, and I'm the board president of San Francisco Pride, as you said, and I'm only the 4th black president of San Francisco Pride, which is celebrating its 51st anniversary this year. And you look at the history of just the LGBTQ community itself. You know, it was, of course, the movement per se was started by a black transgender woman throwing a brick at Stonewall. Yet over the last 51 years, the community has done a great job of whitewashing that entire history and really pushing black and brown folks to the background. And I think as far as the way that Hollywood, or why we would only see black folks with white people in these television and film narratives, it kind of goes to something you said in your last segment. You know, when you have producers, they want to make sure, I'll put it like the last panel said, they want to make sure that that person in Wisconsin, the toothless person in Wisconsin, is more likely to watch the show if the black man is with a white man, or if there's a black lesbian, but she has a white partner who is the primary focus. So they're still catering to the white gaze, which is something that we see in almost every conversation when it comes to black LGBTQ community. You know, something that I say all the time is that when you're having these conversations about issues between the black community and the LGBTQ community, usually what you have is white gays talking to straight black people, and black LGBTQ people are always pushed to the background and very rarely asked to tell our story. So film and television is no different.
It is quite interesting, Kirk. First of all, I saw you were getting a big laugh when Cleo was talking. Yeah, I didn't miss that. That is an interesting point that Carolyn makes there. Like I've had some folk. I actually had some white gay folks to say, you haven't done anything. I actually had one person say, a person said, you haven't covered anything dealing with LGBTQ on your show, and I was like, you clearly ain't never watched the show. I said, maybe the problem is I've had black. Say it again, Carolyn.
There's a legendary clip of Arsenio Hall being razzed by white gays in his audience who said, "You've never had any gay people," and he started listing black gay people who he actually dealt with, and they had no response for that.
Right, and that's actually, Kirk, that's what I was about to say. When I name black folks, they look at me like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's your problem, because you only know 2 or 3 black folks, and because I didn't name them, I named a bunch of others. That's why you running your mouth. Go ahead. Just your thoughts on what this does and what is it saying when you're watching these shows and it's always black guy, white guy, black woman, white woman. I mean, it's very rare that you actually might see folks of the same race who are same gender loving. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's only a few shows. I think 911 has one, and I think Black Lightning may have also had one there. It's very few and far between. And I think what's happening here is that like we have this thing of like a push for representation, you know? And so what we're seeing is that like, whether it's in media or whether it's in film, because there's like, whether you see TV commercials, you see interracial couples, typically it's a white man and a black man. You rarely see like a black man with a Latino or a black man with an Asian. It's typically whiteness is in somehow way centered. And I think what's happening is that like, I always try to preface this that like I have no like issue with interracial dating or interracial relationships. What I do have an issue with is that if interracial relationships only make up 16 to 20% of gay relationships, then why am I seeing 90% of that on television or that in movies? And that's a problem because for me, representation is about authentically presenting culture. So if you are trying to authentically present culture, then you have to show relationships or, you know, interactions, community the way that they are. And gay relationships are, for the most part, not interracial. And what's happening is I also think that it is being presented as aspirational. And so that's another part of it. And for me, I feel like it's being presented as aspirational because media, TV, executives, producers, you know, a lot of people feel that interracial relationships are showing the presentation of them is kind of a remedy to like address problems of racism and anti-blackness. And so they're like, let's show this black guy and this white guy together and we see the togetherness. But it's like, but you're not actually showing what reality actually looks like.
And you were actually, because I saw your tweets on this, where you were talking about this here, and again, it reminded me of some conversations that Cleo and I have had over the years. And it's interesting what you just said. Any one of y'all could jump in this here, because when President Biden was in Tulsa, he was talking about, you know, oh, how things have changed. We're seeing these interracial couples. And Jason Johnson, of course, who's a professor at Morgan State University, you see him on MSNBC. Jason actually did a lengthy piece on this where these white ad makers admitted that they were purposely creating all of these interracial couples in commercials after George Floyd. And it's to your point with the percentages, you don't have that large percentage of interracial couples in society, but they admitted that they were actually doing this on purpose to show unity and things along those lines. And his argument was, well, what the hell is wrong with still showing a black couple? Why can't you show a black man with a black woman as opposed to trying to present that? This is what happens when somebody else, again, is in control of setting the narrative. Any one of y'all can go.
So, Roland, what was the excuse for the disproportionate amount of biracial couples and stuff before George Floyd? This disproportionate biracial presentation preceded that murder. And of course, now it's a good excuse to continue the agenda, in my opinion, of teaching black people not to be loyal to black people and to be less concerned about white people and racism than marry them and not complain anymore once they get coupled with them.
Oh, I think even before George Floyd, I mean, I think, let's just be real clear. I think the reason you saw that, I think the reason you see it, whether you're talking about heterosexual or same gender loving, is because you have white producers, white directors, white folks who are running it, who are like, okay, you know what? It's more palatable. I can accept this versus seeing all black. Look, George Lucas got his black moment when he did Red Tails. He took Red Tails to every major Hollywood studio. This is George Lucas, Mr. Star Wars. And they said, where are the white heroes? And he said, the villains in this movie are white. It's the white people. The heroes are the black soldiers. None of the top studios would take on Red Tails. He put $60 million of his own money into Red Tails, and he articulated what he experienced. And it's because they are making decisions, and so they are more comfortable. Okay, fine, if I got to see a black person, fine, put him with somebody white, because that's who is in control.
And also, not just because it's more palatable, but it's also easier for them. It's easier to write a narrative where you simply put a black character. Like, if you look at a show like The L Word, which was primarily white until they got pushback about not having black lesbians on the show. And when they finally brought a black lesbian on the show, I mean, her look was completely off. You know, the part of the narrative was her really leaving clubs like the Catch One in LA, which is a primarily black club, and really joining them in West Hollywood. And they completely stripped her of all of her blackness. And they only kept her on the show to use her for a military storyline. So it's easier for them. They don't have to do background on wardrobe. They don't have to do background on culture. They're just dropping a black face in there to say that they have one there.
Khalil, go ahead, then Kurt.
Roland, this is a capitalist country. Typically, capitalists promote their wares to the largest group possible to make the most money. But regardless of the capitalist principles, corporate America is promoting their wares to a minority population. In this instance, the minority population are biracial people or black people who want white mates. That's a minority population. It's not logical in a capitalist country to promote your products to a small group of people when you want to make a lot of money. However, if you're involved in social control, and if you want to teach black people not to be loyal to black people or black issues and get off of white supremacy's case and start marrying white supremacy, then it'll result in the goal of what they've done with the Black Miento Project in Brazil and what they did in Argentina, which is teaching black people to value white people, white beauty standards, white folks as more lovable and more human than black people. And then black people over time in droves run over the white people as the best option for love and for relationships. And that's another one of the agendas of what occurs here. It's not simply that they want to have a black person in place. They're trying to get black people. Why would a still contemporarily racist media system start making a decision to make everybody would run after white folks? It certainly is not for black folks. It's for white folks. And if we love them more than we love ourselves, that benefits white supremacy.
Kurt, so what do we do?
Listen,
how does this change?
Wow. Well, okay. So, you know, I've been kind of running through like what I think can happen. And I think part of it is that, like, if you just think about, you know, the shows that we have on, those shows are created by people like me, you know, by writers. So I feel that part of this is our responsibility. And I do, you know, living in Los Angeles and, you know, being in this industry, you do see that, like, I think part of it is I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Georgia, I've lived in Los Angeles or California, and I've seen the most black-white interracial relationships in Los Angeles. I don't have like the stats of what that may be, like by region or by state, but like I've seen the majority here, and I've seen a lot of that in our industry. So typically people write what they know. And so if your partner is white, or if that's what you prefer to date, then that's what you're going to write when you tell those stories. What I want is that studios have to, and I think that it is definitely easier for them to sell a show or to sell a movie about an interracial couple than it is two black men. So studios have to open their doors, open their pockets, listen to these stories and say, okay, we want to get these stories out there as well. But
Kirk, you also got to have some black people. You also got to have, let's just be clear, you also got to have some black actors with some damn guts. Eric LaSalle, when he was on ER, he had several black relationships, and they all ended up horribly. Then all of a sudden, they broke the script with this white doctor, and things are working out great. And Eric LaSalle said, no, we're ending the relationship. He said, I cannot send the signal that every relationship I had with a black woman ended horribly, but the one with the white woman is rosy. And they ended it. He publicly came out and said it. See, to me, this is the moment, and I want to hear Kirk, Cleo, and Carolyn, y'all speak to this, where black creators have got to have the guts and say, no. Look, I get roles and I get, hey, it's tough and I want to keep apart. But at some point, if they are not going to change, then somebody's got to say, no, y'all can't keep giving me white love interest and ain't nobody black.
Well, here's the thing. And I mean, I talked about this last week, so I'm just going to say it. I mean, part of the thing is if those actors don't date black people, they ain't going to give a damn. So, like, that's also part of it, is that if these writers, if these directors, if these actors don't actually date us, then they're not going to. Why Eric LaSalle is saying, hey, I date black women in my real life, so I want to see that reflected on screen. If the domino, if I knock down your dominoes and they all white, then you don't care if all of your partners are going to be white. You probably are more comfortable with that. So again, I think that, as I talked about, I think there are people like me who are writers who are going to have to step up. But there are there are several black gay writers and directors out here. The thing is that those shows typically have interracial relationships, mostly probably because they date interracial in real life. And that's just, again, like I always say, they tell writers, write what you know. So they are writing what they know. But because if you go and look at whatever showrunners, I'm not going to name any names, but if you look at the showrunners and you see the shows that they create, you see the characters that are on TV, and then you go and look in their real life and you see who they're dating, then you understand why those stories are being told. What's going to have to happen is why I said for studios, for executives, for agents, they are going to have to be open to our stories. They are going to have to take these stories because they clearly aren't afraid to tell a story. They're not afraid to tell a story of a black gay man from a black gay man. It's just who that black gay man is with on screen is what matters. And so that is what needs to change, in that people have to be more open and saying, well, why am I afraid to show two black men on TV like being in love? And they are going to have to they're going to have to answer a tough question of themselves, because I think that that's where it starts. Again, I think that you are right that yes, actors and people have to step up, and several are, but you also have to understand that many of these creators are also in relationships in real life with white men, and that's why we see this on screen.
Cleo and Carolyn, I don't mean to use a J. Anthony Brown joke from the Tom Joyner Morning Show, but he will often say, same sex, same problems.
Well, Roland. Yeah, and shows like Pose, which was wildly successful, but also you have to look at the fact that mainstream, as much as we were seeing people embrace black and brown trans community, part of that was definitely it wasn't a show that was necessarily written from a stereotypical lens, but some people were watching it to see that, if that makes sense. They were watching it for an education on parts that were not necessarily their business. We're trying to tell our stories and trying to show more of who we are and empower who we are as a community. And you see people who just want to kind of see trans people dance, want to see folks vogue. We all have to be empowered and really have to be invested in actually seeing these stories, supporting these stories. When you look at the history of black lesbian media, and you look specifically in the early 2000s, there was an explosion of black lesbian media in places like YouTube. And those YouTube shows were wildly successful. But because it was too much to see black butch women, black studs, black butches, black AGs, for the folks that are watching that don't know what a stud is, because that was too much, you would never really see that type of representation at that time in media. And it really is about us supporting all identities, all versions of ourselves. Because whereas you might see black men more in media, you're not going to see as many black lesbians. We are definitely the low man in the totem pole as far as being represented in film and media overall. We might be behind the camera. There's a whole lot of black lesbians now who are writers, who are producers on shows like Queen Sugar. But it's very rare that you just see black lesbian love. You are not going to see black lesbian love on TV anywhere.
Cleo, final comment.
Roland, white supremacy pimps black self-hate. White supremacy takes advantage and locates black people who have an issue with being black and who treat white people like crack and have to have one. And those are the ones they allow to have some kind of gravitas inside of contexts like Hollywood. You yourself have talked about CNN and how you have heard or had interaction with the people who are in power there and talked about some of their racism and why didn't they change some of their approaches. And they didn't change their approaches because CNN, which I call the Caucasian News Network, was doing what it did to make sure that white people, white voices, white power, white determination was key in people who are affirming black people and not doing things that were just comfort zoning or white accommodationists. Didn't have any real power at CNN. Hollywood, as you know yourself, does not have such thing as a black person who can red light a major film.
Not one. In the history of Hollywood, nobody black has ever run a studio, ever.
Right. So the point
a black man was the CEO of American Express, but you ain't never seen a black person run a Hollywood studio.
So there's a couple of issues here, and we don't probably have time to get into the whole thing, but one of the issues that I want to stress is that white people choose who get to have success, who get to be powerful, who get to be known. They're not powerful at all, but who get to be well-known puppets. And the majority of the black people who are same-gender loving that we know by name, well, I don't want to say their names and get you in trouble, but all of them have white lovers.
You ain't getting me in trouble. You the ones talking.
Okay, well, look, Don Lemon, Wanda Sykes, Lee Daniels, the dude named Bill something who's on that show Pose, Billy something.
Billy Porter?
Billy Porter, and the rest of them. White people knew what they were doing when they kept them. Like white people knew what they were doing when they made it difficult for you over at CNN. They don't want black people who love black people, who affirm black people, nowhere in the media landscape. They want us to accommodate and be loyal to them. But let's get to solutions. One of the solutions here, or one of the things that creates black people who run the white people for sanctuary and who run the white people for love and become those yes men to white studios who will let them have white lovers, because like the brother said, that's what they do at home, is that black people have to start creating rational support systems or engagement systems around the existence of same-gender loving people in the black community context. One of the reasons why black people be jumping ship and running the white folks for sanctuary is because going into 2021 on a macro level, the black community has not rationally engaged the existence of same-gender loving bi and trans people. So the people who keep on creating the narrative keep being white folks and the black people who they sleep with. And black people are part of why that occurs, because a lot of us are self-conscious. I've been knowing very famous same-gender loving black people all of my life. I'm a counsel to some of them, living and dead. And there's a couple of issues. One issue is that the black community has not actively created safe space. And the other issue is that the gay LGBT paradigm does not affirm black people. It makes black people confused. It creates disorientation in black people. It creates a question about black loyalty among black people, because the whole paradigm affirms white people symbolically and culturally in terms of its whole genesis. So black people need to learn to love themselves in their own image, who are same-gender loving. The black community needs to stop avoiding the issue and worrying about the compromise of black manhood, which is something that we should be concerned about, because black manhood has been under such attack and we're concerned. But some of our resistance to addressing same-gender living people is connected to our resistance to looking at manhood in a nuanced way. So we got some work to do from a black perspective to get black people to be strong enough not only to love black people, but to question Hollywood out loud about their inability to show black people loving black people.
Kirk,
and stop letting Lee Daniels and other white chasing black folks be the only ones who control our narrative. We can prevent this, but we have not learned to do it because of some conflicts within the black community.
Kirk, you were trying to jump in real quick.
No, I was just saying, well, there is definitely one president or that can greenlight a film. That's Alana Mayo. She's actually a Black lesbian woman, and she is a president of Orion Pictures. So just to throw that out there, I mean, there needs to definitely.
Ash,
what was that?
Where's the bunch of pictures she's put out? That she just. I'm just gonna
Oh no, she literally just started. So that's why I'm just putting it out there. So that's that.
Now hold on. Is she a studio? Hold on? Let's be clear. Is she a studio head, or is she with like a studio within a studio?
No, she's the president of a studio.
Within a studio.
Because I know a whole bunch of Black lesbians with scripts and films ready to be greenlit. What's her email address? I'll send them to her.
I don't have it either. I mean, she's the president.
I don't care what color she is. If she's a white choice, I've got to see action for myself, and if there's going to be some Black outcomes, because Black people have been chosen to be president and all kinds of stuff, and Black people did not benefit from it because white people chose them, and they chose them because they were good white accommodationists. So being Black, it's not enough in the modern era because whiteness has contaminated everything, including so-called pro-Blackness. What we need to look at is outcome, not position.
And to his point, I'm pulling this up. It was a year ago. And Orion is under MGM, which was just bought by Amazon. So she joined, and it was the newly relaunched Orion Pictures. Yeah,
Orion was gone. And
yeah, absolutely. So, but Orion is under
the MGM umbrella.
Yes, under MGM. It's sort of like you can be head of a label, but you're under Arista. So you got that whole sort of stuff there. But folks, a great conversation. It's all about moving the conversation forward. We'll certainly see the challenge. And Cleo, if folks who you called out, I ain't got a problem having them on the show as well. I tell people all the time, I don't tell guests what they can and cannot say. And the bottom line is it's about having the real conversations that are needed, and we ain't afraid to have them with Black people. That's why we Black owned. I ain't got to ask nobody. I green light every damn thing. That's what happens when you own. All right. There you go. Carolyn, Kirk, Cleo, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, then. I want to quickly bring in Amisha and Reese for comment on that conversation. And what you just heard there, again, is what we still are dealing with. I still go back to narrative. Who controls a narrative? If you don't deal with power, you're not dealing with anything else, Reese. You're asking somebody for permission.
You're right. I'm not an authority, and I think that your guest completely spoke very forcefully and powerfully on this. So I'm not going to try to, add too much to it. But it's the challenge that I think Black people deal with in every single community in terms of, securing your space versus making room for others. And making room for others might involve sacrificing your space and sacrificing your popularity. But I feel like on this one, I'm going to defer to your guests and mind my business, because I'm not one to call out any person in a community that I'm not involved, that I'm not a part of personally, and how they choose to operate and how they choose to maneuver in their life. So I'm going to sit this one out.
Well, Amisha, for me, it's not calling anybody out. It's just being very, very honest. The bottom line is here. I go back to, people hear me quote this all the time, the first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, what they wrote in March 16, 1827. We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. The bottom line is this here. If you do not own, if you do not control, then you're asking somebody else to tell your story.
No, you're absolutely correct, Roland. And I kudos to you for providing a platform for that very important discussion. To Reese's point, I think the people who can speak the best on the LGBT struggle for not only being seen as Black people who are LGBT, but also having their stories told and reflected in a manner that speaks to their lived experiences is something that I think that we will continually fight. Heterosexual Black people face a much similar fight in the sense that, to the point that was made earlier in that conversation, the consistent narrative and the pushing of interracial relationships, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with, by the way, but the consistent pushing of it that makes it seem like it is happening more naturally occurring in society than it actually is hilarious to me. But it's also extremely problematic because it is shown at the behest of actual Black love and Black experiences. One of the things I think that was very poignant in the panel that we just heard from was the fact that Hollywood has made a concerted effort not only to back burner the Black LGBT experience, but also to create narratives that are quite stereotypical or problematic as it relates to the experience, and not one that showcases exactly what is happening. And there are certain Black people, Black actors as well as Black producers, who have seemed absolutely fine with this portrayal. And it's frustrating because I think that it diminishes what Black LGBT people are facing every day. Part of it is to get along for the get along and to get cash. Like, I get it. Actors are kind of siloed. A lot of Black actors take roles that are not necessarily the best in terms of the showcase of their Blackness just because they want to get paid. For a long time, Black LGBT life was not seen on screen at all in general in any form. And I think that today there are still quite a few challenges. And to have a panel be able to elevate that in this space of Roland Martin Unfiltered, when you have so many people who are watching and so many people, I was reading the comments while that conversation was going on, some of them, quite frankly, were ignorant. Not only ignorant to the LGBT experience, but also wondering why you would even host that type of conversation here. That's a frustrating point as well. So kudos to you again, Roland, for actually having such a vibrant discussion and having it with the people who are on the forefront who need to be responding.
Again, everything goes back to, do you own and control? What I keep saying to people, which is why I tell people why they must support this show. And this is why, look, we're out there trying to secure more advertising. And I certainly appreciate the partnership that we've just launched with Coca-Cola. And there are others that we're trying to do. But the bottom line is this here. Last year, this fan base gave $672,000 to this show. That represented 25% of the total revenue last year. If we didn't get that from our fan base, then we are not in the position to do what we do. That gives us the freedom. So if an advertiser says, we're not going to buy your show because you have a segment called Crazy Ass White People. Well, and trust me, I've already heard that. This is why you have to be independent, because then somebody else is dictating to you. Like, I get a kick out of these advertisers who go, ooh, yeah, we don't know about that. And I'm going, I'm sorry, but y'all advertise on Fox News. Mm-hmm. Okay? Folks, so please support what we do here, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Support us at Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And y'all, with Zelle, it's Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Don't leave out the S. Y'all send me one more email saying, I can't find you, because you leaving out the S. So just send it to Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, our last story. Moms of Black Boys United is an organization dedicated to positively influencing how Black boys and men are perceived and treated by law enforcement and society. Their mission is to provide information and support for moms of Black sons that promote positive images of Black boys and men, changing perceptions, encouraging self-care, and fostering understanding of the plight of Black boys and men in America. The founder and president of Mob United, DePelsha Thomas Magruder, and Nikki Michaud of Mob United. They both join us. Folks, glad to have you here. When did this start, and where did it start, and what was the reason for it?
Sure. Well, first of all, good to see you, Roland. Very nice to be here with you tonight. And the way I describe the founding of Mob United is I had the reaction in the summer of 2016 that many people across the globe had in the summer of 2020. So I'm the mom of two young sons. And if you think back to 2016, it was the summer that there were two back-to-back brutal graphic killings of innocent Black men, Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge and Philando Castile in Minnesota. And just seeing those graphic images played over and over again on the news, you know, when I went to bed that night and then woke up the next morning, it just crushed my spirit. And I felt like I had to take action. And the action that I took was actually pretty simple. I started a Facebook group. We're live on Facebook right now, so we know the power of social media. But I started a private Facebook group for moms of Black boys and men, which was an idea I'd had for years, all the way back to Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and Eric Garner and so many who came before the cases I mentioned. And I just poured out my heart and said what I was feeling in that moment: anger, confusion, the need to do something and to connect with people who could understand. And I sent it to only about 30 friends who I knew personally, who I thought would want to have a conversation around this. And it just grew virally. It grew from 30 to 21,000 moms that very same day, and now has more than 170,000 moms of Black boys and men. So that was the genesis. And we quickly mobilized and formed 2 nonprofit organizations to focus on influencing policy and perception.
And how is that going?
It's going well. We're about to celebrate our 5th year anniversary on July 7th, and as I say, I wish we didn't need to exist. But after we launched, so many cases happened after that. So since we started, we've advocated for and spoken out on more than 50 additional cases of police brutality and bias and misconduct, from Terrence Crutcher, Antoine Rose, Stephon Clark. The list goes on and on. You know these names. So it keeps happening. So as long as it keeps happening, and I will say, we broaden our mission. We're not just about police brutality. We focus on the entire experience of growing up Black and male in America. So we quickly realized there's a connection between the education system, the criminal justice system, and mental health systems. Those are the areas we tend to focus on to try to help moms and sons navigate all of the pitfalls and situations they may find themselves in repeatedly throughout their lifetime. So it's about empowering moms, empowering sons, and giving them the tools and information they need to be successful and to thrive, and celebrating our sons' accomplishments.
Nikki.
Yeah, and to that.
Nikki, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to jump in a little bit, because when she's talking about education and the mental health stuff, it's one of the things we've been doing in the California chapter, specifically in Los Angeles. We've been partnering with Reimagine LA, working with the implementation of Measure J, which was the measure that was passed in this county of Los Angeles to give 10% of the general fund to fund care and not cages. And right now, the county is not doing their part. They're not honoring the wishes of the voters. So we're just trying to get the word out to influence the LA County and the CEO to actually fund these educational resources, these mental health programs, specifically for the youth, because right now they're not giving the youth any money. They're spending $800,000 per youth in probation spending, and nothing to do anything in terms of moving forward that Care First budget. So that's the kind of thing that members of Mob United get involved in on a policy level. And it's just all volunteers. We're all moms, with kids and all the school stuff. And we're just giving our time to help move this thing forward.
And so in terms of what's next, celebrating 5 years, DePelsha, what's next?
What's next is we want to be the most comprehensive resource for moms of Black sons. We're actually building a database of professional resources that our members can access. So if you need an educational advocate, you need an attorney, you need a mental health advocate, you need somebody to help you get through a IEP process or a court date, we're here for you. So we've been doing this, on an informal basis, counseling moms one-on-one in different situations, but we really want to scale that and make it something more professional, so that if you're in any situation that your son is facing, you can come to us. But I think the real magic of this organization is what Nikki said. We're empowering moms and training them on how to be effective advocates on issues in their community. So she gave the California example. Our moms in Georgia partnered with NAACP to push for the passage of a Georgia hate crimes bill. We're all nationwide pushing for the passage of the George Floyd Policing Act. We've been talking about Juneteenth today, and I think it's wonderful that President Biden passed Juneteenth as a federal holiday, but we're not going to be free until we have comprehensive legislation that stops our sons, our people, from being constantly harassed, targeted, killed unfairly with no accountability. So I'm looking for that substantial legislation that moves the needle more so than a holiday that we get a day off. We need to move the needle, and our generation has responsibility for that. There hasn't really been significant legislation passed since the civil rights movement of the 1960s. So I feel a responsibility to carry the torch that our forebears started and make sure something happens in this generation that will have a difference, make a difference for decades to come and generations to come.
Nikki, final comment.
Ultimately, it's about funding. We have to push the governments, the city councils, the counties to fund the programs, to invest in our communities, to invest in the education. Because if we don't have this type of investment, we can't overcome some of these problems, because it's more than the police. It's not just about policing. It is all of these other issues, and you can't just silo the police issue and think that it's going to be solved. We need better education, better mental health, and we have to push our elected leaders to actually put our money to where we want it to be.
All right, DePelsha, Nikki, we certainly appreciate it. Where can people get more information regarding Mob United?
Thank you so much. MobUnited.org. Come join us on the front lines.
All right. Thank you so very much. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank
Good night.
you.
All right. Final comment from Amisha and Reese. They still there with me? Amisha, glad to see you. It is, I did not get to the Manchin whole voting deal. Bottom line is, it ain't nothing but an idea being floated, so when it becomes real, then I'll talk about it. Right now, it's just really just a waste of my damn time. I do want to finish the show with what we talked about, how we began the show dealing with Juneteenth. And I just really think that it's a mistake for people to minimize what happened today. The issue, Amisha, is not them just signing the law. The issue is now, what are we going to do with it and how we are going to ensure, I go back to, control the narrative.
And I think that you're right here. At the end of the day, this gives Black parents a great sense of empowerment as well, I think, not only in terms of having the conversation with their children and throughout the communities, but also driving home the fact that slavery happened. That slavery was not some ordeal that was not about controlling Black bodies and free labor. We know that throughout this country and throughout schools in this country, public schools in this country, depending on where you went to school, the education you get around slavery is vastly different, whether it's a states' rights issue, whether it is a culture issue, or exactly what it was, abuse, human rights atrocities, and forcefully producing labor from people that you never planned on paying and never planned on actually taking care of in any way. I think that what we will learn from Juneteenth and what the nation will learn from Juneteenth is actually a reality of slavery, what it meant. And like you said earlier, it's not just going to be a blip in a history book anymore, because for the longest, we have not talked about it in the context of, one, how long it lasted, two, the fact that even after the Emancipation Proclamation, technically Black people were still slaves without shackles, sharecropping and doing other things in fields that they literally got paid very little for at that point as well for generations. And then we saw Reconstruction and the ushering in of Jim Crow. This provides an opportunity to have this conversation in the context of what slavery actually was, and that America cannot run away from it. With or without critical race theory, these conversations need to be had across this country. And I think that this is more than just a symbolic gesture in terms of the marking of Juneteenth, and that Black people and Black community needs to treat it as such.
And let's just be real clear, Reese. It's a whole bunch of damn Black folk don't know shit about our own history. So we can sit and talk about it. We're in the white folk didn't know. It's a whole bunch of damn Black people who don't know a damn thing about Juneteenth and about the stuff Karl Marx said yesterday. So it's going to be an education for a lot of Black folk, too.
Absolutely. And listen, you don't have to be impressed. You don't have to think it's a big deal personally. Nobody's trying to police your personal opinions on the matter. But I think to pretend or to put on as though this is completely insignificant is ridiculous. I mean, I will remind y'all how quickly people forget that Ben Carlson in the last administration was referring to slaves or enslaved people as immigrants. Y'all remember that? Everybody was up in arms about that? Okay. Donald Trump, the last president, didn't seem to realize that Frederick Douglass is dead. Sitting up there at the, after he visited the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So to minimize, number one, the work of people like Mother Opoli is gross. To minimize the work of the CBC and the Biden-Harris administration and the Congress, which you always make demands of to do something to recognize Black people in the history of this country, is a little ridiculous, but outrage is the currency that we deal with. But let's stop acting like there's absolutely no substantive difference between what we're seeing now and what we just voted the hell out. Because you would not have a person like Joe Biden, who's in the White House talking about racial equity, talking about the closing the home ownership gap, et cetera, et cetera. I can run down the whole list. You would have stunts like what Donald Trump pulled, which was pretending like he's going to give Black people $500 billion. So I think Amisha said one of my favorite things, this whole thing, take the win. Sometimes we could take a win. Ain't nobody said you won the championship chair. It's the playoff games. It's the very first quarterfinals. Okay, we got more games to win and to compete in. It's the show is not stopping today. But can't we just take one win? Just take one win. If you want to still be doom and gloom and pessimistic and ain't nothing gonna change, blah blah blah, you might be right. But today, I'm gonna take the win.
Well, to your point, when you win a regular season game, it counts. Yeah, it's not a playoff win, it's not a championship win, but you need regular season wins to get to the playoffs. So yes,
Come on.
take the damn win. And so certainly, folks, we're going to end our show today again with that bill signing. President Joe Biden surrounded by CBC members and others today. Today, Juneteenth, now and forever, will be known as National Juneteenth Independence Day. With that, we shall see you guys tomorrow. I'll be broadcasting live from the MLK Memorial, where they're going to have a Juneteenth program. I'll be speaking at that tomorrow, so we'll be from the MLK Memorial tomorrow, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Amisha, thanks a bunch. Reese, thanks a bunch. Dr. Greg Carr, he had to step away. We certainly appreciate Dr. Carr. Actually, we're just going to end the show this way with Greg's video of Oprah Lee being greeted by Vice President Kamala Harris. That's it, folks. I'll see y'all guys tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Holla!